Yeah, the crux of it is that a few weeks ago, this book was published from our friends at Candy Jar Books, 100 Objects of Doctor Who. Now, this is the blurb says it's an unconventional biography of the world's greatest sci-fi show, as told through 100 chapters, each detailing a different object associated with the show. And alongside all the behind the scenes details you'd expect, you'll find lots of niche trivia, sojourns into the lesser explored corners of fandom, and answers to some of the questions few of us have dared to ask. Sort of which planets has the Doctor visited more than once, and how many companions have met the Cybermen. So it seems, I think the word is a miscellany, Simon. That's what you call a book like this, isn't it?
I think miscellany is the absolute perfect word to describe this, and it's very off the shelf. It's very, if you'll pardon the pun, it's very eclectic. It's very sort of left field. It's very, very unconventional. And I've actually got a copy of the book here, and I've been beavering through it, and yeah, it's definitely out there. It's very left field.
So hold on, I'm confused. Is this a recent thing then? Because it looks old.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Yeah. So it's just made old.
Yeah. I love the cover. That cover just encompasses.
It's great, isn't it?
I can really imagine like Dan sat there like that little boy. Oh,
you know what,
Simon? I know for a fact you had a haircut like that.
I was going to say, I had that exact haircut, and you know what? I had the wallpaper was almost exactly the same too. I keep looking at this artwork on the cover of this and noticing something different every time. I do think it's great, and I love the little touches of the free transfers there, with the Brigadier, and I think there's a Quark. I'm not sure what the green blob is there. Somebody out there could probably tell us, but it's written by
Philip. I think it's a Womble, isn't it?
It could be a Womble.
You'll be delighted to know. Well, you'll be delighted to know on the bottom bottom right hand corner, there's a green blob just there near Tom's scarf, and I'm pretty sure that's the soup dragon. You'll be very pleased to know.
Oh, from the Clangers.
It looks like it looks very like a soup dragon.
Yeah.
And I'm
having a lot.
There's the cleaner from Paradise Towers, bottom left.
Yes, of course. I
can see that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, but what wears a suit on Christmas Day?
people did. 20 years after he retired, my granddad, he was getting fully dressed, including a collar and done-up tie, for about 6:30 every morning for a good 20 years after he retired. This book, even though it looks like a piece of retro from the mid 70s, I'd say, a bit of Countdown in there and a bit of Doctor Who Weekly. It's actually written by Philip Bates. He's the author, and he says that Rose introduced me to Doctor Who, although I knew a little bit about it before because my dad had watched it when he was growing up too. And as part of this book, he gets to interview Christopher Eccleston, no less, on the eve of his own return to Doctor Who. And Philip says that he was as witty and friendly and everything you could want the Doctor to be. And he's been lucky enough to interview a few Doctor Who cast and crew members over the years, and there'll be quotes and various other things and other interviewees in the book. So it does seem like there's a bit of something for everybody there. And it's from Candy Jar Books, and the head of publishing, Sean Russell. He says it's a fascinating adventure through Doctor Who history, a wildly original take, which reads almost like one of those make-your-own adventure books from years ago, if you remember them. and the additional exclusive material from Christopher Eccleston makes it indispensable. Sean would say that, but Simon, it does look beautifully put together, and honestly, like something that is a real. It's got a lot of character, I'd say, and obviously being a small press publication, Simon, we like getting behind projects like this, don't we?
Oh yeah, but only if they're any good. And I'm pleased to say it's very good. And look how thick it is, for goodness' sake.
Exactly. Wow.
That's going to keep it going for a while. It's £10. I mean, come on, guys. You can't
look at
complain.
on the cover, Simon. On the cover, it says 7D. What did the D stands for? I thought it'd say 7P.
Oh, now you're asking me. It's the old pre-decimal, wasn't it? What did it stand for?
Can't remember.
Did it
That's
stand
an
for
old.
anything, was it? I don't know whether it stood for anything.
It's in old money. Somebody out there, anybody out there old enough to know old money? I recognise the letters, but I don't know anything about
Definitely
it.
pre-decimal. But I love the fact that we've got the free transfers, as Sarah says on the front there, and I love the fact that Candy Jar had to put an announcement saying just to tell there aren't actually any free transfers.
I was going to ask that.
They were actually asking. They wanted the free transfers.
I'm not going to buy it now.
But it's so retro. It's so retro.
Yes,
this is
Nick Smalley is of a similar mind to me. He says, "Is it not shillings?" So of course it was pounds, shillings, and pence.
Oh,
then,
did the D stand for shillings, or it's
know.
a D, isn't it? It's like, because I always remember it saying P, 7p, 5p. You know what I mean?
But Garbage says that D is in old pence.
So wait a moment,
and that's seconded as well by Problem Being, who's also watching in the chat on YouTube.
Pence.
So we have two.
So was it D? Was it? Wow, I'm confused.
Obviously, it was D. It was before our time, wasn't it? You know, we're left
before
off.
my time, definitely.
But only just.
Retro Doc here. This is Gary Akers. He says the last time he saw 7D was on his grade school spelling report.
Gary. That guy knows. That guy knows more about Doctor than anyone I know. Jesus Christ.
It was just we've got more confirmation that D was an old penny here from Darren Poe. So yeah,
I love the fact that they've sort of done it retro, and the back is great as well. Yeah, you've got a quark on the back there. You've got a little fill-in. You've got a little fill-in coupe on there, just like the ones you used to get in. It's great, and I mean, I hope Candy Jar won't be remotely offended by this, but this is the perfect bathroom book. Every Doctor Who fan should have one of these in the smallest room in the house, because all of the entries, they're all only about 2 or 3 pages long. They're just kind of perfect length. It'll take you a couple of minutes to read any one of these entries, and eventually,
so when you're dropping the boys off, then you take that book. Then is that what you're saying?
Ian, do you remember the old the I Spy books that used to take on car journeys in the 60s and 70s? They were kind of digest size as well, weren't they? They started out for bird spotting and trains and things like that, and then they sort of really expanded, didn't they, by the early to mid 80s, and they've got kind of novelty versions as well. I used to like the spotters guides, and you could tick boxes in them, like in the corners, like when you actually saw one of these bird sounds. I bet you this is like well before your time.
I've got no idea what you're talking about.
You little child, you. Time for bed.
This book came out early in April, and Simon's already got hold of his. And there is, if you want to sample this book and see what it's all about, try before you buy. There is a link in the comment section of this video, and it'll be in the show notes of the podcast too. And you can pick up a sample of 10 of those 100 items, and you can get a flavour for the book, the writing style, and the sort of the texture of it. And because one of them, and here's a bit of a sample now. So one of them is the cyber head here. And in the book it says this head, specifically this head, described by the 9th Doctor as an old friend of mine, if you remember. Well, enemy, the stuff of nightmares reduced to an exhibit in Van Statten's museum. Yeah. And it was supposedly found in the London sewers, although when the Cybermen were in the London sewers, as this book quite rightly points out, that was during the invasion, which is a completely different design of Cyberman.
Yeah, I know, but
Revenge of the Cyberman.
That's my favourite Cyberman design. I like the because they were in the Peter Davison era, weren't they? That kind of design for the Daleks, and I like it when you see their mouths moving when they're talking. that little thing at the bottom, and you see the actor's mouths moving,
Yeah,
which proves that they're half human, half machine. So there you go.
This was kind of the missing link between that era and the Troughton ones in the 60s. But yeah, I've always liked that, and the fact that these little oddities in Doctor Who lore, they're the kind of things that we do spot these inconsistencies, don't we, Simon? I mean, there could be a missing adventure where these Cybermen are in the sewers. Of course they could, and that's a gift to you, Big Finish. All fanfic writers. Yeah, it's probably on the way. In fact, I think it is on the way. I think there's something coming up soon, some sort of audio novel with John Pertwee's Doctor, with John Corshaw narrating. The Rabbi will be able to tell you about that. But yeah, that's the kind of thing. And so what this book is doing is that which we do as fans sometimes, is to join those dots and to excavate the past and to poke around in the fictional Doctor Who universe and to see where there's sort of room in between the cracks and in the ways in which it comes into our everyday lives too. So I thought that we could talk about our Doctor Who objects of Doctor Who in day-to-day life that we've kind of latched onto, and almost we either enjoy them using them on a day-to-day basis, something functional like your sonic screwdriver toothbrush, for example. If anybody's got one of those, I actually do own one of those. You do? So something functional, or just something decorative around the home, or even better, is there just something around your home and in your day-to-day, everyday life that reminds you of something from Doctor Who that just makes you smile? Yes, the 80s looks very different, says Sadako. The 80s, well, it was John Nathan Turner, wasn't he? He wanted to stamp down hard on that, as Ian said, and they were looking at little visual things to do with all the characters. Yeah. Matt Pott, our friend Matt Pott in the chat. The kid on the cover looks like one of the young Braiders. He does. Good to see you, Matt. Back when the Cybermen were scary, says the Geek Inside. And yeah,
they were right.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, I as much as I like Russell T and Moffat, well, a bit of Moffat, I hated the Cybermen design. I don't know about you guys. They look like toys. Like that. At least the Peter Davison and the Pete Davison era, they look like a half human, half machine.
Correct.
I mean, obviously, it could be more spruced up if they had more money. But I'm a huge fan of that design of, you know what I mean.
I do know what you mean. I think Moffat never got it right until series 10 when we saw when they went back to the Mondasian kind of style. They were creepy, but the others, they were too robotic.
They looked like they were selling them for toys. You know what I mean? When you remember that bit where Tennant, that's what I'm saying. Well, Tennant comes out and he sees all those Cybermen, and you think. And when I first saw it, I got so excited the Cybermen's come back, and then I saw it, and I was like, they look like toys. You know what I mean? Transformers. No, but that's just me, right? That's just me. But there you go.
Those designs were very much influenced because one of the concept designers on that era of Doctor Who, one of the people that they went to was Brian Hitch, the comics artist. He'd been working, I think he worked on Doctor Who strips in the 80s. I'm sure that people will remember that from Doctor Who magazine. But latterly in the noughties, he had massive success as the artist on the Marvel comic book, The Ultimates, which was part of their Ultimate Universe line. And he reimagined the Avengers. All of the Avengers pretty much in a more real world way. And his take on Iron Man is very similar. I think, when was the Ultimates? I think the Ultimates came out around 2001, 2002. So Brian Hitch designed the look of Tony Stark's Iron Man from that. And I think there's a definite link between his Iron Man design and his Cyberman design too on Doctor Who. I think that's too close to be. Oh, here we are. And the Rabbi agrees. Comic book artist Brian Hitch designed the RTD Cybermen. He also did design the Peter McKinstry.
They didn't look creepy though, did they? They didn't look creepy. That was the problem with them. They looked too kid friendly, and you're just sitting there going, "Okay, it's the Cybermen." But as I said, the other ones look better in my opinion. But as I said, just my opinion.
It was the process that made them creepy.
Well, yes, that's true too, I guess. But anyway,
certainly enough to keep Derek's twin daughters awake one night. He says they gave his daughters nightmares.
Oh, really?
Anyway, can I give you a little peek? Can I give you a little peek inside this, because I have been reading this. And
go on then, Simon.
It is an absolutely cracking read, and literally within the first 30, it really is not the book you would expect it to be. That's the first thing I will say. Within the first 30 odd pages or so of reading this, I had learned things that I did not know about Doctor Who. Did you know that there is a trilobite named after Tom Baker? I didn't know that there
What's
is
a trilobite?
The trilobite is it's a bug from prehistoric.
It's a fossil, yeah.
Yes,
yeah,
fossil.
Oh, I
That's
see.
That's
Okay.
the word. There's also a constellation of 6 pulsars named after the TARDIS, which I didn't know. Apparently, Terry Nation earned £4.5 million in his first 18 months working on the show. Within 18 months of the Daleks, he earned £4.5 million. These are the kind of little gems that are in this book. The other thing that absolutely blew my mind, apparently, so the book reliably tells me, the very first sight anybody got of Daleks was in a Dutch newspaper that was printed a few hours before the second episode of the Daleks. So Holland actually saw the Daleks just before British viewers saw them in the second episode of the Daleks. It's just like, this is stuff I didn't know. This is cracking stuff. Did you also know Gareth Kavanagh, who has now gone on to do Vorp, the fanzine, the great. I now learn apparently he ran the pub that they used to base the pub on in Scream of the Schalke.
Gareth.
Yeah,
that is pretty cool. That is pretty cool.
Did you also know, I mean, maybe I missed this one, that apparently Rose was always going to be in, well, the plan was, Russell T Davies planned for Rose to be in her own spin-off show called Rose Tyler Earth Defense after she left Doctor Who.
I did know that.
Didn't know this.
That's the only one I did know, though. That's the only one.
Didn't know this stuff. There's a cracking little interview in here with William Hartnell. Get this. There's an interview with William Hartnell in this book that I have never read in my entire life. I didn't even, and he's talking about the son of Doctor Who. There's a very quick flash of it. I'm not going to give you any more.
Doctor Who's got a son. Doctor Who's got a son.
Well, that's what you're going to have to go. It's on page 30. Okay. On page 30, go and buy the book and find out why. It's a William Hartnell interview. Whoever thought there was a William Hartnell interview out there?
There are so few of them.
I'm going to give you a little teaser now, because this is something else that I've never even thought about. It even tells you that the TARDIS is the mainstay of Doctor Who, having appeared in all but 11 stories. Now, I've never even thought about this before. Can anybody name, do you think, the 11 stories that the TARDIS doesn't appear in, because they're in the book?
Wow.
Who would
I couldn't name all 11. No,
Can you name one?
The Sontaran experiment. I know the Sontaran experiments one. What else? Genesis of the Daleks is another.
Yeah.
I don't think I could name all 11. Though.
I can't name all of them either.
Tricky, I wouldn't have done it. Mission to the Unknown. Bit of a
I suppose that's obvious. Yeah.
It's a story of the Silurians.
The Doctor has to have a son if he has a granddaughter, says Problem being in the chat. A son or a daughter, yeah. And
was she really his granddaughter though? That's the question. I mean, was she just calling him grandfather? Because sometimes you have a neighbour and you call him. You might be, might not be. So
I had several aunties and uncles who lived in the same street as me. No blood relation whatsoever. But they were my uncles and aunties. Yeah.
But that's the thing about Doctor Who is it's called Doctor Who for a reason. That you don't know his background. He's a mysterious Gallifreyan, Time Lord, and that was the best thing about Doctor Who, wasn't it? You didn't know, so there you go.
I think there's something about Doctor Who fans as well, and I think it can manifest itself in lots of different ways how we sort of process this. But putting a book like this together and picking our way through all those little things, the way that the author has. And already it puts sort of smiles on your faces. But I think we do that individually as well. For a time, I thought it was something that came with age. When you'd been into the show for a while and got up into middle age, in particular, it was all about bathing in nostalgia. But obviously, the writer of this book has only been into it since 2005, and yet they've gone back. There's something
I didn't realise that.
Timeless and seductive about it. Yeah. So the old stuff, the entire timeline becomes a bit of a plaything. But what I've also found as well is that as somebody who's been watching Doctor Who and loving it his entire life, and you think all the ways in which it's influenced you as a person, either your morality, Ian, it's definitely informed the kind of person I am, or it's just filled my home, Sarah, with all that more stuff than there's in more books and various things that are in Peter Capaldi's Doctor's TARDIS. So all those obvious things, but then some things also turn up that you forget about. Little things that have had an impact on you, and you track it back and you think, God, that was because of Doctor Who too.
Yeah, do you know another thing I've realized throughout time and space is that people of different ages, they have kind of strange different opinions of Doctor Who. Like for me, it was I started with Pertwee, right? And straight up to the current one, which we won't mention, obviously. But but people who started from the New Who, they see Doctor Who very different to the way, I guess, I'm obviously guessing for Simon, the way Simon sees Doctor Who. We see it in a very different light. We know there was sellotape stuck on the walls. We knew the bubble wrap creature and stuff like that. They never experienced any of that. So for us, it's very different. Being a fan from the classic Who and the New Who, we see things very differently about Doctor Who. The New Who people, they I don't know, they're very, I believe, strange. They're not like us. We're different. I'm just saying.
And on that bombshell, let's bring in somebody who can be a bit of a voice of reason and calm this all down. Let's see what he's got to think about this. See if he thinks we're near the mark. Maybe he's got an entirely different take on all of this. Welcome back to Type 40 Live. This is Alex Storer. Alex Storer is the illustrator of the fantastic Blackpool Remembered ebook from last year. Hello, Alex. Good to see you again.
Everybody all right?
Yeah.
Fantastic.
I think I pissed off a lot of fans, but there you go.
That's okay. We do that. They're a forgiving bunch.
So you're a bit of a, I think it's fair to say, isn't it, Alex, bearing in mind that you worked heavily on Blackpool Remembered last year, you're rather into nostalgia too, aren't you?
Yeah, it comes with age, I think, as well.
Does.
So what is it about? What do you think it is about it then that the younger fans latch on to? You know, because as we've seen, this guy's kind of written a book, and he's not the only one, is he? And it does seem to sort of grab hold of people, doesn't it? And I don't know if it makes people older than their years. But
can I just say one thing, though? Can I just say one thing? I think the difference between people who grew up with classic Who and New Who is that we accepted Doctor, and I hate to say this, as old. Right, so John Pertwee was old, what's his name? Patrick was old, William was old, and then we came to Peter and Tom and Peter. So they're relatively, apart from Peter, obviously, we were used to an old man being Doctor Who and stuff like that. New Who, though, when they look back, they go, "What the hell is this?" Do you understand what I'm saying? They're very different. They see Doctor Who very different to us. Do you know what I'm saying? That's what the point I was trying to make.
I didn't, but yeah, there are some, I suppose. Yeah, they've been used to the more like heroic, dashing.
Yeah,
David Tennant and Matt Smith.
Yeah, but I mean, the old Doctors had to use their brains, and the budget was very limited, and the story was very creative because the budget was very limited and stuff like that. And it's a very different feel to that Doctor Who than to the New Who. Sorry, I'm digging myself a hole here. That's what I was trying to say. That's how different we are.
Keep backpedaling, Nayan. Keep
I think there's some truth in that. I think that the figure of the hero looks slightly different than how it did when we were children in the 60s and the 70s. I think that middle-aged people had more of a place on TV. Middle-aged and elderly people, a lot of the central figures of old TV shows, they tended to be slightly older people, Alex.
They did. That's the point I'm trying to make. If you look at Barnaby Jones, times, isn't it? Yeah, you look at Barnaby Jones, you look at John Wayne. They were all people of age, but they were all accepted as heroes, weren't they? They were all, hailed as heroes. Doesn't matter how old John Wayne was. When he kicks the door in and he goes, knock, knock, and he beats everybody up and stuff like that, he was a hero. What was he? Was he in his 60s? But he was still, but the people that like Doctor Who, New Who, they don't see that. They just see an old man.
Although back then, a lot of people looked a lot older than they actually were as well.
Yeah. Well, Hartnell is a prime example of that, I guess. Yeah.
And it occurred to me the other day that I'm now the age, if not a bit older than Sylvester McCoy was when he took the role.
Yeah, I was thinking about this.
You still have this sort of idea of them being on a a certain level that's way above you, and you think, well, hang on, I'm actually that age now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I'm not
young.
I'm only a couple of years.
Same
Well,
here.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm only a couple of years off myself, being the age that John Pertwee was when he took the role of the Doctor, and that seems mad because, of course, he'd got a full head of white hair. Certainly, a couple of years into his stint as the Doctor, and now, I mean, you think that probably most leads would. I know Peter Capaldi didn't die, but then again, he was cast to be markedly different to Matt Smith and to be older, but generally speaking, to have a hero for children who hasn't got a hair on his head, Simon, that isn't grey, you probably wouldn't get that now, would you?
No.
I think it's a shame, because I think, in my view, the Doctor should always be that older character because it works. It goes back to its roots. But I think when you look back at older generations, especially how TV was back in the, in the 60s, 70s, even the 80s, the Doctor was sort of a father figure or even a grandfather figure. So if you're a young kid watching it, you've got that sort of that special feeling, and you get a lot of the sense with the companions have the same sort of relationship as well, which for various reasons people don't like doing anymore.
It's just the sign of the times, that's all. That's what it is.
Exactly.
Do any of you agree with Crimpling de Bloom watching on YouTube in the chat here? It says that fans of Classic Who generally have a more cluttered home.
That's only because you've had longer to collect stuff than us.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you, Sarah. You can go off, people.
God, yeah, and Aged 5 goes on to follow this. Aged 5, I played at being the Doctor when John Pertwee was the Doctor. I didn't see him as old.
Exactly, that's the point I'm trying to make.
Absolutely.
Well, we're different. We're different Who fans. We see that, but they don't see it. The new Doctor Who fan. Sorry, go ahead.
Anyway, back at objects.
Yeah.
I think you get to you reach an age where looking back at things is sort of comforting, or you look, especially when you're a Who fan, there are certain moments that really stand out when you look back down your own timeline. You think, oh yeah, that was significant, that was one of the best days of my childhood, or I still remember watching this episode on that day. There's so many things that you sort of, they feel like little milestones going back into your own past. So I think you want to sort of hang on to those. And it becomes a point when, like, I think for me, when John asked me to get involved in Blackpool Remembered, it was, oh great, because I want to try and remember that experience as much as possible, and let's get as much information together as we can to to bring it back to life, if you like. Because it's those little experiences that you just don't want to ever forget.
Yeah.
And the context, I suppose, as you found when you're putting that book together, putting it all into context and finding that sometimes people's memories were conflicting, and that which those moments that you take in and they stay with you for years and years and years. Sometimes people are equally convinced about two separate events that couldn't possibly both have happened. Somebody has to be remembering falsely, or it was some sort of a meld of the two. And I think that with Doctor Who fandom, that a lot of it, I suppose, when you're really, really young as well, and your brain is kind of still developing, and you don't commit things down. I think you commit the memory of having watched something rather than what you're actually watching to your long-term memory. You remember how it made you feel rather than what was actually on screen. And you think about all the kids that hid behind the sofa, looking at the cover to that 100 Objects. I remember being in my living room around that age, hiding. The sofa looked nothing like that, but I remember hiding behind it. That cliche. But I know I categorically did that. The people out there.
This is you, isn't it? That is you.
It may as well be. I'll put some pictures up on social media. You can see my He-Man style haircut with the two.
We've all had that haircut.
Yeah.
I didn't.
I looked like one of the guys.
An afro.
It was spared that, but he did get the afro. See, that looks much more fun, though, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You can keep a pen in an afro, can't you?
Absolutely. Stick the old afro comb in it. Yeah, you're laughing, mate.
If you're gonna have bad hair, you might as well make it work for you. I hid under the sofa until I saw the giant spiders.
Yeah, I'm with you, Crimpling, on that one.
That was scary.
Yeah.
Duncan Shaw says, I have plastic tubs filled with Doctor Who books and old VHSs I don't have room for on my shelf, including much of the classic Target books. You need to either get another room or throw something out to make room for those Target books.
Oh no, sacrilege!
eBay.
No.
I mean, we've all been there as well, where we've got rid of something in the past and we thought, oh, I won't need that again. And years later, you think, oh God, why did I get rid of that? Or you have to buy it
was
again.
saying that to the rabbi the other day. I'm sort of regretting now selling all my New Adventures books from the 90s. And I probably wouldn't ever have read them again, but they look so nice with those bright white spines and the beautiful artwork. I love all that stuff. But a couple of objects that I do have, getting back to the things that I have cherished. sometimes, Sarah, they're not those mass-produced items. Mash. Or mash get smash. They're not those mass-produced items. They're the littler things that were picked up in tiny little gift shops on holidays at Blackpool, for example, or anywhere else that just happened to remind me of a certain time. So we're going to talk about a few of our objects now, and you can join in the chat by all means and let us know about the stuff that you haven't thrown out that means something to you that you couldn't possibly get rid of in a million years. Let's start with you, Ian. What Doctor Who objects do you have in your everyday life that you either use a lot or
look, I have a lot, but unfortunately they're all packed away in a cupboard over there. But it's just a pain in the ass to get to. I have a box full of, I have a few Target books, mind you. I wasn't really.
So what's your favourite? What's your favourite object then, Ian? What have you got? A favourite one then?
I've got I've got the collection. Do you remember Weetabix had those cards? Yeah. I have them in a box somewhere, and I've got all of them from the Yeti to. He's going to get it, isn't he? He's going to show me up, that man.
The Doctor Who.
Why do I even bother?
To have that to one side.
Why do I bother?
So this is a set of.
I got them.
Simon,
this is a set of trading cards.
Of Blue Peter, you know.
Oh, go away, Simon.
Were they series 1 or series 2 that you had?
All of them.
They are so
series
cool.
1, 2. And do you remember they used to have? I think they had a run in the PG Tips box as well. Do you remember them? The
I haven't got those handy, I'm afraid.
They had a run, and I had a few of them as well. So yeah, man, that takes me back to when I was a child.
These are the coolest things. These are just the coolest things. Yeah. These are one of my favourite objects, actually.
Bob, do you remember? They used to have at the back of the box as well. You had to cut it out, and then you can make them stand. Do you remember them as well?
There was. That's right. You cut them out, made them stood, and there was on the back of the packet. There was There was a game. There was a game. Yes. The first series. This series had a sort of a diorama. So you got a planetscape, or you got a TARDIS console room cut out. And on the second series, you got your a game.
Yeah.
You couldn't get much cheaper than this because they were cut out the back of a cereal packet, weren't they? And how many cards did you get in each packet of cereal? Ian, do you remember?
I can't remember, but you know what? Simon's ones look pristine. He's looked pristine. Mine is just beaten up.
They are pristine.
Look at them. Bloody hell. God, you are. I'm so annoyed that I didn't keep mine properly.
They are pristine, I have to say. And they're original, so they are pristine. There's a couple more down here that I can't get holds of. That slips down inside the box.
So when was this? Was this
75 and 76?
Yeah. I mean, this is always with me, though. This is always with me. It's always on my desk. So
I knew that's what I thought you were going to mention. So what does that do then? What does your TARDIS do?
It spins around and it makes a noise, but it hasn't got the battery in it. Batteries run out because I played it so much. But it spins around like this, and then it makes a noise. You see a little speaker at the back. It makes the TARDIS noise and stuff like that. And that light lights up as well. And and I think I've got Rose Tyler in there somewhere. She's in there. She deserves just to stay there, actually.
Anyway, eating her chips. Eating her chips. Yeah. You also use one of these as well, don't you, Ian?
I do. I've got. Oh God, we might have got to get it now, haven't I? Freaking hell!
This is a TARDIS USB hub device.
Cool.
I got this TARDIS USB thing. I had to unplug it from my computer because every time I use this speaker, I have to unplug it. but because it doesn't work with this. So this is pretty cool, actually. You got the 2 USB sticks there, and you stick it in your computer, and you got extra room there. That's really cool. So I like this one as well. Yeah. And when you stick one in, it makes the TARDIS noise. It makes you can turn it on or turn it off. Yeah. So yeah, it's cool. It's cool. So yeah.
What else have you got in your toolkit then, Simon? What's your first object that you want to bring
I've got
out?
2 objects here. I have got 2 objects, and they're both quite personal to me. This first one is there we go. If you can just about make that out.
That's cool.
Everybody obviously knows that's an Ice Warrior. This is one of the fine art castings, lead miniatures from about 1987, 88, and I painted this little devil. So that's why this is very personal to me. I painted him when I was probably about, I don't know, I suppose about 15, 16, something like that. And I painted a load of them. I had loads of these. I had absolutely loads and loads of them, and they've all gone. They've all gone. I sold them off stupidly. This is the only one. The Ice Warrior is the only one that survived the
Why
cult.
do you think? Why did you keep that one in particular, Simon? Any ideas?
Because it didn't sell. I'm not kidding you. This is the only one. I'm not kidding you. If somebody had bought this one, it would no longer be here. But nobody wanted this one. It was when I was selling my whole collection off to go to university back in the early 90s. I sold everything off, and this was one of the only things that's actually survived because nobody wanted to buy it. So that's why I've got this one. And my second object is this, which you can
I used to have one of them.
Now the story behind this is, as anybody
Beautiful
of my age would know, you used to get these from the Longleat and the Blackpool exhibitions. That was the only place you could get these little beauties from. And so I had one of these from Longleat because I went to Longleat every year. I was kind of obsessed with Longleat as a kid at the exhibition. And so I went to Longleat and I bought this. This was one of the very first things I ever bought. But this is special for me, not just because it's a badge from Longleat, but it reminds me of those happy times when it was the absolute best time for me as a Doctor Who fan. I was probably about 10 at the time, and it was just Doctor Who was my life at that time. And this just takes me right the way back to when I was just loving Doctor Who at that age. And the reason, and what's even more interesting about this particular badge is this isn't, again, my original badge, because yet again, I got rid of my original badge. It went many years ago. Oh, there we are. Now that's me. And one of those badges on there is this diamond logo badge. I don't know what the other badges are. I wish I could tell.
And yet your hair's not blue. Good God.
It's not blue. That was taken last week. No.
So this is the famous Longleat
83 at Longleat. That's me in my best doctorish pose and my best doctorish little hacking jacket. Gosh, I wish I still had that.
How old are you there?
I'm about 12. 13. 13.
All right.
Yeah,
it's a really cool picture.
It is,
and that's another thing that has survived. But as I say, so I'm wearing this badge on that photo, but it's not this badge because I lost my original one, and there is somebody in this chat who very, very kindly sent me this badge, and this is from Alex. And honestly, this was one of the best things anybody could do because I lost this, and it meant the world to me. And Alex has sent me another one. So in a weird way, and so thank you, Alex, publicly. Thank you for sending this because it is a treasured item. And what I love about this is this was so important to me as a kid. But now I've got a new one from a new friends that I found through doing, the podcast. So it all looks back.
And I think what was also nice with this is I had the same badge issue with one of the neon tube badges that I had from the Blackpool exhibition from 85, which I at some point got rid of. That Simon, you happened to have a spare one, so we did a badge trade, and both very happy badge owners again.
We swapped badges.
That's the spirit of Doctor Who fandom, everybody.
Stop it, Sarah.
Hanky for Sarah. Hanky for
Doctor
Sarah.
Who fans all about, isn't it?
It is. It is. I've never seen one of those badges in the wild. I've never come across one of those. I have one like yours, Alex. I've got the neon tube one.
Turn it
But there
around.
is something about those. I think that it's like having a credential, isn't
Oh
it? To
my
say
God.
back then, I'm a Doctor Who fan, and here's the
They
proof.
don't make badges like that
No,
anymore.
they don't. They
With
don't
the
make
thing
that
that comes
anymore.
up in a little V shape. Oh
Yeah.
my God.
And,
That takes me
I don't
back.
doubt it's actually probably made in England. It probably actually is made
Yeah.
in England.
Did any of you ever accidentally prick yourself with the pins
Yes,
of those trying to
me.
stick a PE t-shirt?
Me.
Take your nipple off? Yeah,
It's
me
still got
too.
the blood on it. I can see it's
Have to
still
go
got
and
the
get a
blood on it.
tetanus jab.
Yeah,
Those
people
things are
in
dangerous,
chance.
man. I remember
But that's
them.
my
People
two
love it.
objects. So, and they're both very personal to me. And so,
They're
but Doctor Who,
fantastic,
you know,
Simon.
They
They're
are
objects are
fantastic.
what,
gorgeous.
you know,
Yeah.
make us
People
Doctor Who fans.
love your Ice Warrior, Simon. People are touched by your story of the badge. That's cool. Alex and Simon,
It
double
is
cool
cool.
from Richard Brooks here watching over
It
there.
is cool.
And Nick Smalley says, I can hear the theme from the rag tray. We're replacing it with the badge tray. Badges are very Doctor Who, aren't they? I think
They are.
we ought to sort of claim back badges, really. I think various Doctor Who characters, such as Ace, she was good with a badge, and so was Jo Grant, I think, wasn't she? Katie Manning loves her badges.
Yeah, and in many ways, back in those days, it sounds ridiculous, but badges were one of the only things you could actually get.
Yeah.
That was it.
But in the
Badges,
80s, I
badges.
remember a lot of people it was like a fashion thing, wasn't it?
Badges,
Especially at
yeah.
school. They were
Yeah.
like somebody would have their badges on like quite a few of them on one side. So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
We got another comment here. It's Crimpling Doubloon again watching in the chat. I bought Doctor Who rubbers from Longleat.
Yeah,
for
remember
the Americans watching in the chat, I mean pencil
Pencils.
erasers,
An
because
eraser.
rubbers is something slightly different in the States.
As
Yes.
far as I know, they haven't made Doctor Who branded versions of those yet, have they?
No, I don't
I'll
think they
get
have.
back to you. I'll have to check this out. I wouldn't rule it out. Let's be honest. I wouldn't. Never say never. Never say never. So, Alex, we talked a little bit
Big on the inside.
about the badges. You've got the neon Doctor Who badge there that you and Simon traded like that. But
Yeah.
which other? Have you got any items that are special to you like that in your everyday life that you see all the time or use?
Not necessarily that I see all the time. I mean, I've got plenty of stuff. Most of my older things, like Dapple toys or the first run of BBC videos that I treasured and kept, they're in the loft. My general favourite everyday thing is this collection behind me of various Daleks, as you can see.
Wow.
Oh, that's cool.
We love a Dalek or two, don't you?
Yeah.
Some of my favourites are actually the Eagle Moss ones, especially the Death Zone Dalek, which was quite hard to get hold of, and the one where you can see the mutant, because they take me right back to the first episodes that I ever saw. But I've got two objects that I had to hand, which have great sentimental value. The first was, we were talking about the 80s earlier. As a kid growing up in the 80s, all I wanted was a toy Dalek, and back then they just didn't exist. You couldn't get any of them anymore. You couldn't even get a cardboard cutout on a cereal packet with one on. They just didn't exist. And there was I think it was 1986, there was a jumble sale at school where, everybody would bring their unwanted toys and stuff in, and I walked in the hall armed with a 50p piece and saw this staring at me from across, and I just made a beeline for it.
Okay.
And I remember physically shaking with excitement because I couldn't believe what I'd found. And it still talked. I got home, put the batteries in, and it shouted away, and I was absolutely over the moon.
Wow.
You really making me cheer up with this.
Who manufactured those particular Daleks, Alex?
That was the Palitoy one.
Yeah, it is the Palatoy one.
Does it still
Oh,
talk,
right,
Alex?
right.
Does it still talk?
It does, yeah. It's not got any batteries in it at the moment, but yeah, it still shouts. I actually ended up with two because the next workmate gave me one of his that he found in the loft as well.
Whoa, fantastic.
Wow.
Although between the two, neither have got a full set of guns. But the other item I will share with you is this edition of...
Sorry.
Oh,
my
yes.
TARDIS went off.
This is
Doctor Who
it's a
magazine.
1988, Christmas 88 edition, isn't it?
That's the one. And somewhere near the back is me.
No way!
Really?
You're in a magazine. Good God.
Yeah, I think we've all got this in our collections, and you were.
Wow.
You had a letter printed?
There's the
That's
picture.
amazing.
Oh, that's your picture.
That's your picture.
That's your picture.
Oh, of course. Yeah,
That's
yeah.
fantastic.
Wow.
Page 10.
That is cool.
Absolutely brilliant. I love it. But of course, I've seen that picture dozens, if not hundreds of times, because I've got every edition of the magazine. So yeah, I've found this a few times. I've bumped into several people or spoken to them on streams or just in the Doctor Who community generally who, I recognise something of their work from Doctor Who magazine or a book or whatever else.
That was actually
really
my
nice.
second appearance. The first was when I won a copy of Spearhead from Space the previous year, I think it was. So
Wow.
they printed my name in there, but as a kid who spent all my time drawing or trying to draw Doctor Who stuff, to actually have my
brilliant.
picture printed on the sacred pages of the magazine was amazing. And of course, in last month's issue, they printed my Davros piece. So 30 years on, I'm there again. So
that's it.
Very happy with
meant to be. Meant to be. I remember in the 80s, we used to love grabbing some badges on Freebies table. Says Wendology. So yeah, they did used to give a lot of things like that away for free, didn't they?
Yeah. Absolutely.
As novelty items. We've got one order here for the 100 objects book from Gary Akers there.
Retro donkey.
He does like his books.
Not surprised, Gary. Not surprised, mate.
Vanessa Law says, I have a classic pin from the Doctor Who Fan Club of America.
Wow.
And she's going to take a picture and put the Type 40
Of course
Facebook
you do,
later
Vanessa.
on.
Of
Good
course you
stuff,
do.
Vanessa. Yeah, we'll look forward to seeing that. We're going into another universe here with garbage. I found Soundwave Transformer. It's the Decepticon tape player at a car boot sale for 50p in the late 80s. I was also shaking. So there's somebody that can definitely recognise that feeling, the excitement. It couldn't possibly be as you rub your eyes to make sure you're not seeing something. Gary says, I would have elbowed every single kid out of the way to get that Dalek, Alex.
I literally did. I made a beeline straight for it.
I bet you did.
Yeah, that beautiful items. I mean, I've got you're mentioning the Daleks earlier on. I've got this Dapol Dalek here. I wanted to show you guys, and this is a friend of mine. This is the lone Dalek survivor from the Great Hadley Dalek Wars of 2001-2002, which took place between myself and my eldest son Joe, whereby we each had about 15 of the Dapol Daleks each. Which between us, we messed them up bad ways. And this is the only one that's got even one appendage still attached. He took, as my son Joe was the victor, of course, he took the spoils with him back to his mum's house. And so the rest of them, I was left with this sort of poor consolation prize, really. But thanks, Joe, for leaving this Dalek with me all this time. But for me, this isn't just a memory of the Dapol range of toys. It is a memory of playing Daleks with my son when he was very, very tiny. He was he was enchanted by Daleks. He really latched onto them. As we hear this all the time, don't we? Where the kids latch onto the monsters first. Yeah, that's one of my items. How about you, Sarah?
Stuff. I think that was a dream come true when they finally came out in the 80s, and I've still got most really of mine as well.
Who would have
I've got a lot.
Be worth so much money today.
I've written a feature about them for John Collier's forthcoming follow-up to Blackpool Remembered, which we explore. We go off on a few still related tangents, but we took the opportunity to look at a little bit of the Dapol stuff, and David Boyle's widow kind of sent us a lot of unused publicity photographs, so they've been quite interesting to see. So yeah, it was nice to go again back down memory lane to recall the experience of when they first came out. And there's actually one of the adverts in this magazine which I remember.
I just remind people out there that David Boyle was Mr. Dapol, wasn't he? He founded the company. He brought those Doctor Who figures to the fans at a time where there was, as you say, Simon, there was next to nothing.
Absolutely, and he's sadly no longer with us. Oh yeah, look at those.
Oh, look at
beautiful.
It was so exciting seeing that on the page for the first time, and a variant of the Dalek which never got released.
Yeah,
which never got released. Sorry, Alex.
The Dalek.
Yeah,
the Dalek itself never
sort of silver and black with
that's
proper paintwork on.
I remember towards the end of the run, they were planning to do a Whomobile, and I remember seeing a photo of the prototype of the Whomobile, and that was phenomenal, and they scrapped that as well. And the TARDIS console, although it had only got 5 sides instead of 6, that was the first of Dappol's mistakes. It was still a beautiful, beautiful console. It's a fantastic model, and the time rotor went up and down and lit up. It was a fantastic model.
Still got mine. Still works. It's a noisy bugger, though.
There is a bit of an amnesty going on in the chat, or could be a bit of a support network, where people are lamenting those famous Doctor Who items from their past that they sold for one reason or another, kind of like you and those painted figures there, Simon.
Yeah,
but in those days they were just considered toys, weren't they? I mean, today, you know, today they're collector's items. It's strange. It's strange the way we used to think in those days, because, you know, today if something from Star Wars comes out, people are just buying it, not even taking it out of their packs or anything. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's very different.
It's funny, you know. I had a moment as I was selling all my stuff, as I say, back in the early mid-90s, and this is again, it's sort of in pre-internet days, really. So as I recall, I ended up putting, to get rid of the last few bits and pieces, and I could just weep now thinking about it. To get rid of the last few bits and pieces, I ended up putting an advert in the local paper saying, you know, Doctor Who stuff going cheap, come and buy. And I had an absolute moment. There was only a few items left, and a young lad came round to my house with about £1 of pocket money or something, and went through these items and chose 2 or 3 items that he wanted to buy that I just laid out on the carpet for him to see. And I had a real moment when I suddenly saw myself in this young lad. He was only about 10 or 12, something like that, and I suddenly had this epiphany when I thought, what am I doing? What have I done? He was really excited to get a couple of these items, but I suddenly realized I have sold my childhood. I've sold everything I had. I've got rid of it all, or I've given it to the charity shop. It's all gone. And it was a real heart-stopping moment, and I never sold another thing. He bought his things. I can't even remember now what he bought, but he bought some of my precious items for £1 or something, went off with them, and that was it. I took the advert out, I stopped selling them, and never sold anything. But it was too late. 99.9% of it had all gone. But there was this horrible moment of realization when I suddenly thought, what have I done? But somehow we didn't see things as precious in those days as we now do. And it's ironic, because the things that you haven't got now are more precious than anything that you have got, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I remember things like the original fine art castings, or the hologram cards and stuff like that. I remember, I think when I was in my teens and I'd gone off Doctor Who and got into video games and stuff like that, I would sell old toys and stuff I'd get enough money to buy whatever I was into at the time. And my old things like He-Man toys or Thundercats and the things that I had as a kid in the 80s, I'd sell those. Really, to buy the Dappol stuff. Yeah. And of course, now I think, I wish I kept all that. Not that I had any room for it.
I can't tell you how I felt when I used to watch the Doctor Who series, and you know, I used to have few of the toys and stuff like that. It's a very different feel, I guess, because I was so young, than it is when you watch other stuff like Star Wars, Star Trek, and other shows on TV. Very, very different. And the idea that you had to wait a whole week to see what happens next it's I can't describe it. It was very exciting as a kid. And I don't know whether children today experience that now because of all the technology and stuff like that.
I think you're right, Ian. I personally think they do experience it in a different way.
Yeah.
They will probably say, well, they're perfectly happy with how they experience it, and great. I would say, good on you. But whatever, it's a very different experience to how we had it, because you're right. I mean, I know this has been talked about ad nauseum, but when you missed an episode, you missed an episode, and it was gone forever, and that was that.
It's gone.
And also, I mean, but in the days before eBay, there was no way of actually buying all this stuff that we're talking about that we sold and we got or gave away to the charity. That was it. It was gone. It was never ever coming back. Really, there was no way of getting it back. And in many ways, you know, eBay has been a bit of a paradise to go back to and try and pick up all those things and pay far more than you ever sold them for when you know.
I guess we all just hanker for those days how we felt and stuff like that. And that's why we're so attached to Doctor Who and all the other stuff that we love, like computer games that Alex was mentioning and stuff like that. Was a point when I was into computer games, mind you, though, it was Commodore 64. So, do you know what I mean? So very old. But yeah, I know we all feel that way because of what we experience as children, as kids. So, and it's just stuck with us as we've grown up. We haven't really grown up. That's our problem.
Well, I think we are the generation. We're the first generation that's been permitted to take our youth with us, I think, into adulthood, Alex. We've been allowed to. Richard Brooks puts this beautifully, watching in the chat on YouTube. Money gets printed every second, but these items are finite in number.
They are.
Plus, they are our memories.
Yeah,
they are.
It's all very true.
And then, of course, there is the evil parents who used to give you toys away behind your back and insist you were too old for them, Sarah. You know, my mother gave away to the jumble sale, to the bric-a-brac jumble sale, my John Pertwee 1973 Doctor Who annual. That's the one where he's. It's like the pattern on the front where it's various stills of him in the TARDIS console room. I think that's the 73 one, and I'd written my name in it, and I'd got it second hand myself. And she thought I was done with it, donated it to the jumble sale. I was walking around the jumble sale, and I remember the horror. You talk about the elation, Alex, at you when you saw that. I've got to have that Dalek. I remember the horror. Well, the realization. I went over and saw the book. Oh, I've got that book. I opened it up, had a look, and there was my signature inside it. I went cold, Sarah, and I insisted.
Did you buy it back?
I bought it. Of course I did. You know me.
I had the Lord of the Rings.
Lord of the Rings
collection.
Yes.
And when I went to uni, my mum got rid of everything. She took it to a car boot. I was like, oh God.
Yeah, same thing with comics with me. That my mum got rid of hundreds and hundreds of British Marvel comics, because they used to print it differently to the Americans. She got rid of most of them. When I came back from college, I was like, "Where are they? Where are they gone? I chucked them out." Like, kind of thing. So yeah,
we've all been there.
Yeah, there you go.
So Sarah, what items? You're somebody who came to the show in 2005, as you keep rubbing it bloody in. Bear in mind, so that's accepted. Do you feel any differently than we do? And if so, why? If not, then make us all feel better. And what kind of items spring to mind when you hear us talking about all this? What Doctor Who items and objects do you hold dearest?
No, I absolutely do feel the same, because I still have that attachment. I mean, obviously I wasn't a child when I watched it, but you know, I have good memories of that time and watching it, because my nephews were at the perfect age for Doctor Who, and I'm proud to say I got them onto it. You know, we all watched Rose together, and we watched that first series together and the Christmas Invasion together, and it became a family thing. Yeah, I haven't got obviously the same experiences, but you know, I do get the attachment, and then obviously passing it on to my own children. I mean, they're Doctor Who fans up until recently.
What are you saying?
But as a family, you do Doctor Who related activities together as a family, don't you? Particularly because you've got two young sons, and one of them involves this particular tome, doesn't it? I'm going to put this on screen now.
It does. I'll put it. Yeah. Well, I've got it here as well. Yes, this is the official cookbook by Joanna Farrow.
That's Sarah doing a Nigella thing. So tell us about.
Well, this is special because this was a Christmas present for my cousin, who isn't really a Doctor Who fan. So it's always nice when somebody who isn't like in the inner circle sees something and thinks, she just thought, oh, she likes baking, she likes Doctor Who. Really thoughtful gift, and I've done many recipes. And then there's random things.
What's in there? I'm curious. What is it like?
There's like
garlic pie or something like that.
Yeah, there's
what's in there?
I'll show you. So there's different things. There's like little snacks. So
all
these
right,
are called cyber melts.
Let's have a look.
Cyber melts. I love it.
So
how
I've made
classic is
them.
that? Wow.
There's a fish fingers and custard, but it's not actually custard, it's a cheese sauce,
Oh,
but
I
it's very
see.
nice.
Yeah.
And then there's desserts. Zygon pie.
That's a
actually
classic.
quite Scary.
Yeah, and then
That's scary. Brilliant.
and then there's this was a really good one with the kids. Let me just see if I can find it quickly. Oh dear.
It's a big book as well, isn't it? So you could be dipping in and out of that for years.
Gallifrey pops.
As you
can see.
Oh, no,
So
that's
your
nice.
chocolate, yeah, so that's lovely. Yeah, they went down well, very easy to make, and
We need a cookery demonstration sometime.
we do, yeah. Well, I did. Well, obviously, when I was on Facebook, I used to post things in the group. Dan will remember.
Yeah.
And when when Series 10 came back, I did something every week to celebrate it.
Brilliant.
Returning.
That's very cool.
Yeah, and we've got some pictures here, haven't we? Sarah sent these along.
Yeah.
Various triumphs. From,
there's my boys.
The Smartie. I love the Smarties on top of K9.
Yeah.
K9. That K9's brilliant. What is that? Chocolate cake?
It's gingerbread stuck together. It was very difficult to put together.
That's really cool.
And that's a Slovene. Is that a Slovene?
It is a Slovene, yeah.
That's fantastic. Absolutely. Oh, and that I've just spotted it's Cassandra, isn't it?
Yeah.
Cassandra That's brilliant.
And the fish fingers and custard. And two smiling kids, mind you, they're smiling. They haven't eaten it yet, have they? They haven't eaten it yet.
What you insinuated about my cooking?
That's making me really hungry looking at that.
Yes, obviously I've got a lot of happy memories.
Well, one of your sons has got his tongue out, so maybe he's had something.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So it looks like a big book as well, Sarah. So you could well be going through that for several years before you've made everything.
Yeah. There's plenty of stuff in.
Wow.
Very
I'm
cool.
impressed, Sarah. I'm impressed.
Good.
Very impressed.
That stand us all for years that you can go back to over and over and over again. Duncan Short, God, everybody's a critic, aren't they? Would you get this on Bake Off? The K9 is missing its tails with Duncan Short. And Nick Smalley's another one with a long memory. He says, I like the old Doctor Who cookbook with
Nick.
rack of lamb. Yeah,
I remember that one, Nicky. And with the soup with crotons in instead of croutons. I remember that. And the Kipper of Traken. The Kipper of Traken.
Nick has confided to us that he thinks that age is irrelevant. He was born in 85, but
So was I, Nicky, yeah.
But as his dad had Sky from day one, I watched Doctor Who every weekend on UK Gold. I'm youngest of my Who group, and although I don't have any memories of Longleat, etc., it's about sharing memories, isn't it? Different things. And Retro Doc, Gary says Star is all-star kitchen. Yeah. Great stuff, Star, says Richard Brooks.
Thank you.
Great
I would
picture.
love to chump that K9 cake, definitely.
Thank you, Vanessa.
Bite the head off it.
Yeah. People have long memories. There's that book, the original 80s Doctor Who cookbook, was full of puns, wasn't it? And we love a pun. Kipper of Traken, that kind of stuff stays with you for decades. I completely agree.
Get that book. Is it still available?
No. You can get it on eBay. It's Gary Downey wrote it. You pay you pay about 20 quid for it on eBay, but it's the most ridiculous read because they're the most unlikely recipes, and you're never going to try them.
Well,
you can just imagine Gary and JNT sat at home coming up with all those puns.
Absolutely.
What will it be tonight, darling? Should it be the Kippers of Traken? Fabulous. Well, I've got that cookbook, and I'm interested to hear the fact that it's hard to get hold of now, because when I was trying to fill the gaps in my Doctor Who collection in the late 80s into the 90s, that book was everywhere. And sorry, I don't like to speak ill, because obviously the gentlemen aren't with us anymore, but I always got the impression that that book didn't sell particularly well because there were piles and piles of pristine copies available for £2 each well into the 90s. They were very easy to find, most of them unread. And I can't imagine
in the bargain buckets of the works.
It'll be W.H. Smith's, wouldn't it? Because W.H. Smith, when they couldn't sell the books, they used to be in the front, didn't they? And it's like £2 and just all piled up together and stuff. Yeah.
Well, if anyone's got a spare copy, please send it out.
It's probably available as a PDF attached to one of the DVDs, I would think. Richard, if you're watching, if not, why isn't it on there? There's a request from us if the Doctor Who cookbook isn't on. Because they recently, Chris Chapman was behind that special feature where they cooked certain items, select items from the menu.
Yeah, on
of the Doctor Who cookbook.
That's on the season 23 box set, I think, or is it the season 20? Yeah, season 23, I think.
I bet it's on there as a PDF, or somebody's got to have plans for it, or maybe a revised edition. There could be another volume of that coming along, Sarah. I think that all these things, they do tend to come around again. A lot of these ideas, apart from the rubbers, we haven't seen those yet. Maybe let us know in the chat if those rubbers are available, the other kind of rubbers anywhere in the world. Doctor Who rubbers, we genuinely, I think I'd like to know. And Sadako says, I watched Doctor Who for the adventure and the danger. I was unlikely to get a cookery book that had the name on it.
Fair point.
Fair point.
A lot of us are a slave to the
adventurous.
Of course it can.
And dangerous and very dangerous.
Yeah.
True. And apparently there was a guy on Come Dine With Me who was a Doctor Who fan and made a Dalek table soup. Colin Baker was a contestant. Colin Baker. Colin himself was a contestant on that show. I seem to remember. The canine should have been on MasterChef. Says Disaster Area. Good to see Disaster Area. Thanks for joining us again. Yeah, the canine did look very, very tasty. Definitely.
Definitely.
An item I wanted to tell you lot about, in particular, was this. I'm about to bring it up. It's not food. I'm literally going to bring it up. I'm going to bring it up on screen. Hold on one moment. Let's get this sorted out. Yes, I'm going to bring it up on screen now because it is. And see if you can guess why this is a Doctor Who object for me and why I like it so much. So here we are. Any ideas, anybody, what this is?
I know what it is.
It is a thing of purpose. So I told you, didn't I?
But I know anyway, because it's my era.
It's a thing of purpose. But can anybody tell me? Any takers in the chat? None at all. It's all gone quiet over there. Yes, it is a thing of purpose. Anybody on the panel know what this is? What it could be?
Nope.
It's about the size of a cricket ball, and it's quite heavy. There's your clue. It's quite heavy.
It's a glass ball.
It's a glass ball, and although the label has come off the bottom there's a flat bit at the bottom which sort of may give it away a little bit. It is a paperweight, and it comes from the popular retailer IKEA. Popular with some of us if you're any good at home assembly furniture, and they were available for quite a long time. And in an assortment of colours. So here's some more. You get them in blues and greens and reds and yellows, and all sorts of things. And they turn up on eBay now. But they don't sell them anymore. But I've always liked this. And it used to freak a member of my family out a little bit. They hated staring at it. But a few years ago, I was tempted to throw this out, but I kept it. I kept it because of Doctor Who. And because every now and again, I give it a little twist. Because one of these featured, actually, it's probably more one of these, if the colour scheme matches. One of these used to feature here, in that little indentation that we see now in the Russell T Davies era console. One of these used to rest in there, and I think it was Chris Eccleston's Doctor gave it a little twist now and again when they were working the controls, and I recognised instantly. I'd already had mine at that point by a couple of years. This is mine. It's the best part of 20 years old, and I recognised it immediately. And so I don't think I could part with this because now and again I have it next to my PC, or next to the printer actually, and every now and again I do give it a little twist. And imagine that it's something that the Doctor would do in that organic console room there from the.
So you bought it before you saw it in Doctor Who. You'd already got it before.
Yeah. And I've got a few items like that which I bought that I've since seen on TV, but this one is the only one I think from Doctor Who. And I think I've got similar tastes to the Doctor or the TARDIS, Ian.
On the console, they used to have a click light, because I recognised it on the Chris Eccleston's console. It had a click light. I don't know if there's a picture of it, but I recognized it immediately when I saw that episode. The very first time I saw the episode, I think it was on the other side. It's one of those lights where you just click it and it comes on. You can stick it anywhere, and that was part of that console. I'm probably wrong, but it did look exactly like a click light. So
it almost certainly was. I mean, you can see here there are other pictures. I've got lots of different pictures of the console room. You can see various bits which look like they were bought out of B&M bargains. Or the 99p shop. They probably were.
They probably were. Yeah, they probably were.
If you remember, we talked to
for me, that console. I have to be honest, never worked for me.
No, not for me. And I hated the first Matt Smith one where he had a typewriter and all that rubbish. I'm like, no, this does not work. But that's just me, right?
Give me a proper console with proper
exactly.
buttons.
Yeah, you would, wouldn't you?
It's because you're young. You see, we're just old and crabby.
Yeah, exactly. Everybody says that the Peter Davison one is the best one.
I don't know what
it is.
You reckon, Alex? Do you reckon it was the best one?
Yes.
Oh wow!
Why do you think it was the best? Why do you think it was the best one?
Buttons.
I just think it improved on the previous design. It just looked more slick. It looked less homemade. It just has a lot of very nice little finishing touches on it, like the angular underside and the trim around the edges, and a very cool time rotor in the middle.
I remember.
You can believe it did something.
I remember Peter Davison with the cloth. Remember when we first see it? It's like that. Yeah. Look at that.
I think what I liked about it as a designer, and I know you're a designer too, Alex. I think what I liked about it is that it was the first item with the console in particular, and I agree. It's definitely my favourite. Not prejudiced.
I've got the Eagle Moss one. They've done a brilliant job with it.
I've seen that. It does look beautiful. And for me, I think what it is, it's the first console that doesn't look like. It always looked like the console.
It doesn't look like there's a man inside pushing the time.
Well, more basic than that, even, although that is true. But it to me, previous consoles always looked like they put up the walls, they painted the floors, they put up the walls, and then wheeled in the console. It looked like a totally independent prop that was literally wheeled into position. There were very few design flourishes at all that were present in the console, that were present in the rest of the room. Whereas, like you said, the trim around the sides of the console, it looked like it belonged to the same set.
Yeah, it all looked like part of it.
Yeah, the new pillars that were put in place, which were squared off, that everything kind of matched. And although it didn't look organic in the way that TARDIS console rooms do now, arguably they've been over-designed and they look ridiculous. They've now gone the other way in the Chibnall era, where it looks just like a TV set. It looks like the set of Dancing on Ice. But they've got it. But they got it right with the console room behind me, with the Capaldi era one, where the floors, it looks like textured metal, and it's all the struts. It all seems to come up. And I love the Russell T Davies one too. I love the coral, but I can see why some people don't.
I don't like it at all.
Hate the coral look. It's just.
I do like William Hartnell's console. Especially when they rebuilt it for that documentary stroke drama. It looked beautiful with the with the round circle things and the little pulleys and stuff. And it looks really, really nice.
Duncan says that my paperweight looks a bit like a gel guard from the Three Doctors, and he's not wrong, is he? Not sure in the chat. And the Russell T Davies era console, that looks like it's under the sea with barnacles on it.
Yeah,
I like it.
I like that, and it makes sense with his doctor, because he's
rough and ready.
That, and because of what he survived, it looks like that TARDIS has seen some action. Yeah. And he's had to just repair it with whatever he's had during the time.
The thing is, though, he could walk into any TARDIS room. Apparently, there's hundreds of TARDIS rooms in the TARDIS, and he chose that one. It just looks rubbish. Personally, I thought it looked rubbish. Personally, but anyway,
I think go underneath it as well. You didn't really get much of that in.
Yeah.
I'm with Duncan. I miss roundels. I really miss roundels.
Yeah, we all miss the roundels, and I like the layer cake look of the.
What are the roundels?
You can buy that wallpaper. Have you seen?
Yeah, I know.
I don't want that wallpaper.
This room. Can you imagine this wall with roundel wallpaper?
Yeah. Do it, Simon. Do it.
That's what I need. Roundel wallpaper.
bringing us up to date. Bringing us up to date now. I think that, Alex, you were talking about the Eagle Moss collection. I think we have to get more selective as we get older, as house space, shelf space comes at a premium. We have to be selective about the things that we sort of invest in, don't we? And the things we bring into our home, I think we do get a bit more selective. Have you always bought that range? Do you cherry pick, or are you subscribed to that range?
I'm very selective these days. For a while, I mean, now, before you had the program on TV and you had the magazine, then you had the program on TV, the magazine, and the Big Finish range. Fast forward a few years, you've got the program on TV, the Big Finish range, some other audio things, a YouTube thing, and God knows how many other umpteen spin-offs that you don't really need. So I bought every classic DVD, I think, bar a few of the Hartnell ones, so I could satisfactorily have that collection. And then my other thing is the Daleks, as you've seen behind me. But I don't buy anything and everything. Just because of sometimes cost, but generally lack of space, and just being realistic and a little bit strict with yourself at times. What do you really want? What do you really need? It's just.
I think we all reach that point eventually where we have to get quite disciplined with ourselves, because there are a lot of pretty things out there. But as Richard said in the chat earlier on, it isn't necessarily about the shiny. I joke about shiny discs, and we love the Blu-rays and whatever else. But generally, I think that the things that stay with us, the things that I hold dearest, are things that are sort of broken and unrecognisable and beaten beyond belief. Like, this is my talking K9 from my childhood.
Oh no!
Okay.
It looks like he's recreating the look from Full Circle, isn't he? When he gets his head, that's what he's doing.
I've still got his head. It's also in 2 pieces there. I've still got the.
No, that's the most poorly talking K9 I think I've ever seen.
Yeah,
I've lost my original talking K9 that I had back in the day. Again, has gone. So at least you got yours, Dan.
Alex says, "Does he still talk?" He still talks to me in my sleep, which is perfectly normal. Everybody, it's nothing to worry about at all.
I think I'm far happier with a collection like that than with a room full.
Yeah.
Mm.
I think it's horses. I think it's horses for courses, isn't it? And like I say, I think people get to a point with collecting. I mean, collecting is slightly different to what we've been talking about this afternoon. But I think people do go in phases with collections where you get to that thing where you want to own everything, you need to own everything, and go through a process of sort of purging that maybe and thinking, okay, my time with this item or its time with me is probably at an end. Somebody else is going to get as much pleasure, if not more, out of this item than I have. I'll have a few quid, and they can take that. They take that into the future with my blessing. I've sold several things in the past. Not much, but I have, and that's what I could sort of console myself with. Where if ever I get to the point, like with my New Adventures books, where I think I'd kind of like them back now, thank you very much. I did sell them in order to have some deposits to buy my first home. So, whatever.
I think it also kind of goes hand in hand with your interest in the show, because we've all, had phases where we've lost touch with it or fallen out of favour with it. And then it comes back. And I think with it, the collecting bug comes as well.
It does.
Certainly does.
Absolutely.
Ferociously. Well, thanks for sharing, everybody. Sharing your various objects and chunks of your past. People in the chat, the K9 has taken people's imaginations away here. I am the K9 Whisperer. Yeah, the Eagle Moss figures are nice and small, says Disaster Area. They are. They're quite compact, aren't they? I know people who've got armies of them. Russell T. Davis, in fact, has got, I think, a few hundred of these stretching across one wall in his home. He puts up pictures on Instagram sometimes. Well worth looking at. But that wraps us up for now with the objects. So the book, let's go back to the book. There already one extra sale in thanks to this. So but 100 objects of Doctor Who is available from Candy Jar Books at present. The links are in the description of the video. And they'll be in the show notes of the podcast too. So go and hit them up for that, or sample 10 objects of Doctor Who and see if you like the look of it. Get in touch in the comments section. Tell us about your Doctor Who objects. those special objects from your Doctor Who past that you would never part with in a million years, or something with a story behind it. Sorry, let us know about that. Tell us your story if you like, or head over to the Type 40 Facebook group and maybe share a picture and have a chat about your objects and items. Or I think I might get some pictures of mine up as well. And yeah, my sorry looking canine. You can console yourself with that. It looks like it's been sacrificed, doesn't it? It looks like the kid from Toy Story, the naughty kid next door got a hold of it. That's what it does. Yeah. And yeah, thanks to everybody for watching, for catching up with us this time for this sort of deep dive and rummage through our own Doctor Who past. Yeah.